Hey everyone, Wandering Bard here, and in lieu of having a proper intro montage or something for this video, I wanted to put out a quick content warning for anyone who's not super familiar with this character. There's a scene in a pivotal moment for both the story at large and his personal character arc that involves him choosing to shoot himself, which I do know will be distressing for some people watching this video. That said, I do have to include or at least talk about that scene to do a thorough analysis of this character, so I wanted to put out this content warning ahead of time that would be in there. And I don't know how genuine this is going to sound coming from a stranger on the internet, but if you are one of the people for whom this content warning is pertinent, my heart genuinely does go out to you. And if you do stay to watch the video, I did put timestamps in the video description for where to skip from and where to skip to avoid that scene, and we'll also put content warnings on screen where appropriate. I hope you liked the video. The topic of today's analysis is Sazh Katzroy, who I have mixed opinions about. He's one of, if not the most beloved member of the original cast, and in terms of Final Fantasy XIII alone, I'd say he's the best written character. He's a perfect example of understanding the distinction between goal and conflict when writing characters, of how to raise the stakes in ways that are meaningful, and how raising the stakes and shifting the focus of conflict really pushes a character to its limit. But he also falls off really hard in the sequels, and I think that is also foretold in how he's written in Final Fantasy XIII, notably in terms of his relationships with the rest of the cast. So today, I'm going to analyze Sazh through the dual lens of conflict and relationships, discussing why he works so well in the original game, and how I feel he's mishandled in the sequels. Let's get started.
Hey, Sazh. Tell me about yourself.
Huh?
Any family?
I have a little boy.
Oh, so you're married?
I was, yeah.
So the game never actually tells us what happened to Sazh's wife. According to the wiki, she died of illness a few years before the events of the game. So Sazh has been raising his son, Sazh, alone for a while now, and the kid is basically Sazh's entire world. The trouble began for Sazh when he took Sazh on a tour of the Uriday Gorge energy plant. He wanted to show Sazh the fal'Cie that produces the power there, since the kid always wanted to see a fal'Cie. Unfortunately, Sazh also tried to quickly sneak away to buy Sazh a gift, and Sazh took off alone into the plant, where he found Vanille and Fang, two pulselessly about to attack the fal'Cie, which did the only thing that it could and branded Sazh a Lassie to protect it. This technically does work, as Vanille and Fang are so distracted by what happened that they completely forget about the fal'Cie, but this event marked the beginning of Sazh's nightmare. As a Lassie, Sazh will either complete the fal'Cie's focus and gain eternal rest and crystal, or fail and become a Sazh, a mindless crystal zombie. But either way, Sazh has to grapple with the fact that his son will soon be lost to him forever, and all he can do now is help his son complete his focus so at least he won't become a monster. In other words, his goal is the same one that every father has, to be there for his son. There's a problem though. Nobody has any idea what Sazh's focus actually is.
That is how a focus comes down, people. The fal'Cie, they don't spell it out with clear-cut instructions. All you get is a hazy glimpse. Well, that's what they say. Legends and all. Legends.
After Sazh was branded, he got taken in by PSICOM, the military branch that specializes in pulse-related activity. Specifically, Sazh's case is being overseen by this piece of work, Colonel Jill Nabat, who basically sees the entire world as an experiment around her and has no empathy whatsoever. Unfortunately, even after running numerous tests, PSICOM can't figure out his focus. All they can determine is that he's able to sense power of pulse origin, which he uses to locate the fal'Cie Anima in the city of Bodum. So Sazh puts two and two together and guesses that Sazh's focus must have something to do with that fal'Cie. So, when Anima and the citizens of Bodum are being transported to the Hanging Edge to be purged, Sazh secretly volunteers himself for the purge, hoping to get himself close enough to the fal'Cie to complete Sazh's focus for him. Which is especially brave when you consider that, unlike the previous characters I've covered, Sazh isn't a soldier or an experienced fighter. He's a civilian, a pilot who's been thrown into a situation that's way beyond him. You can tell that he's in way over his depth, but he chooses to fight alongside lightning and snow anyway.
Dodge. I'm in. As long as you don't mind an amateur. I got these things. Might as well use them.
Thanks. Where are we?
Unfortunately, this ends as we all should have expected. Sazh, along with Lightning, Snow, and Hope, are all branded as Pulse l'Cie and given their own hazy glimpse of a focus. You notice that I didn't mention Vanille since she was already a l'Cie before meeting the rest of the party. She has not, of course, revealed this to anyone, but that's because most of them still believe that Pulse l'Cie are dangerous, inhuman enemies. She doesn't know that Sazh is the father of the kid she saw branded in Yuride Gorge. And ironically enough, Vanille is actually the only person in the party that Sazh bonds with as they run from the Sanctum, which is a bit surprising. In a later video, I'm going to talk more about healthy relationships and how they impact characterization, but the one thing that stood out to me about Lightning and Snow is that they both have meaningful relationships with the rest of the cast, including each other, and those relationships have a significant impact in shaping their respective journeys. But Sazh doesn't bond with the rest of the cast. He did start his journey with Lightning since they were allies of circumstance fighting their way to the fal'Cie, but they didn't exactly get along well, and he often gets frustrated with her grim stoicism and her tendency to go off on her own. Similarly, he gets on Snow's case for constantly having his head in the clouds. He sees the rest of the party as kids, and I think that's what really prevents him from bonding with most of them, as he simultaneously laments that they got involved in all of this and gets frustrated by their immaturity. The main reason he bonds with Vanille is because they get stuck together when they're in the Violet Peaks, which is also where the party splits up. Lightning announces her intention to destroy the Sanctum and its fal'Cie, and voices her contempt towards Snow, which causes Hope to run off after her. Snow already left the party a while ago, so that leaves Sazh and Vanille together, unwilling to tangle with Lightning. They run the other way instead, towards the sunlit waterscape.
Hide!
Sky. Closest city that way is Palampolum. That is not good. I wonder if those two were caught in the net.
What do we do?
What do we do? Right now, what can we do?
Right. No choice. We run the other way.
Which would be to Nautilus.
The Sunlit Waterscape arc is a bit of a break for Sazh, since there's no Sanctum troops chasing them here. It's unclear whether the troops are just focusing on major population centers like Palampolum, or whether Lightning was successfully drawing their attention. What's important is that this gives Sazh time to rest and consider his plight as a l'Cie. When he was in Lake Brescia and the Violet Peaks, he didn't have much time to think about it, although he did show himself to be more thoughtful about his l'Cie status than the rest of the cast, pondering the fate that's been handed to him and his son. Once he's in Sunlith, Vanille comments that it felt like he had forgotten she was still there sometimes. He turns noticeably inward, but he does eventually open up to Vanille about what's on his mind when she starts asking him about family. He tells her about Dodge, and she figures out who Dodge is, but she doesn't admit that she's responsible for him becoming a l'Cie, for obvious reasons. Sazh also comes to an inescapable truth during his ponderings. Either Dodge will have crystallized already when the fal'Cie anima was destroyed, or, if his focus is to do with hunting or killing Pulse l'Cie, then Sazh is now his enemy. And his focus, whatever it is, will by definition be in conflict with Dodge's.
It's a pickle, all right. But the bird says no.
In order to save his son from becoming a monster, Sazh will either have to become a Seath himself or else die at the hands of the Sanctum. And if Sazh wants to spare himself, he has to condemn his son. He now has two conflicting goals. He naturally wants to not be a Sith, but he also still wants the best fate for his son. Eventually, he and Vanille make their way to Nautilus, the City of Dreams, a combination of city and amusement park that many Cocoon citizens visit on holiday. Unfortunately, this beautiful city only adds to Sazh's misery, as he had promised to take Dodge there one day. Eventually, he can't take it anymore, and he comes to Vanille with a resolution.
I'm turning myself in.
Huh?
I know they execute Sazh, but hey, they're not total monsters. They'll listen to a final request. They'll have to. Before the end, I want to talk to Dodge one last time. I want to tell him about these chocobos. I want to tell him about everything I've seen.
But wait! Sazh!
Sazh has basically lost hope. And to be honest, that's pretty understandable. He has no idea what his focus is, or any concept of how to complete it with the Sanctum constantly after them, and even if he does complete it, he and Dodge are doomed anyway. With no way out and no reason to keep going anymore, he at least wants to see his son one more time before he dies. Vanille, in her desperation, prepares to confess her role in Dodge's branding to motivate Sazh with revenge, but before she can muster the courage, the Sanctum troops attack. And, at the conclusion of the battle, we finally learn how the Sanctum found them.
Huh?
Daddy, I found you.
Huh?
Daddy, got you.
Dodge, why are you here?
Because you promised.
But how did you get here?
Yeah, remember what I said about Dodge being able to sense power of Pulse Origin? Well, that applies to Pulse Lassie too. And then, having located and apprehended Pulse Lassie, Dodge completes his focus and turns to Crystal.
Dodge! Wait! Come back!
Even though Sazh knew this was coming eventually, he is immediately quite distraught. And things get worse when Nabat shows up and shows Sazh enhanced security footage from the incident at Euroday Gorge, which implicates Vanille and Fang as the ones responsible for Dodge's fate. She goads Sazh into confronting Vanille, which leads us to easily the most powerful character moment in the game, and arguably the entire trilogy. Roll a tape.
Vanille!
My name is Herbadia Vanille. I'm a Lassie from Grand Pulse. And to everyone on Cocoon, evil. Shoot me for your son.
Don't you even! You think you die, and that's that? Hmm? You think you die and everything will be sugar and rainbows?
Then what can I do? What do you want from me? If I can't live or die, what do you want me to do?
Don't ask me. You figure it out.
I don't know!
Neither do I. It's over. There's nothing to do. Shooting you won't help. Neither will living. Do your worst, you freak!
It's not over.
Okay, fine. You want me? Come and get me!
Of all the Eidolon scenes that I've revealed in this series, this is the first one where we've seen a character truly reach their breaking point. Sazh has lost his entire world right before his eyes. He has nothing left anymore, no reason to keep fighting, until he sees Vanille shielding him from Brynhildr, the Eidolon, and he resolves to fight. But even after taming Brynhildr, he still has a choice to make.
A lot of things can be excused. Shooting kids ain't one.
This right here is why Sazh, the everyman of the cast, is worthy of being called a hero, and the essence of why conflict and growth go hand in hand. Over the course of like 2 weeks, Sazh has had to confront the worst of what life can offer, and even when brought to his lowest point, he still holds fast to his values and refuses to murder Vanille in cold blood, as he believes that would be inexcusable no matter the circumstances. This is why he is a hero right here, because he can hold on to himself when he has nothing else left. But he has another choice to make.
Enough is enough.
Why can't I do it? I got no reason to keep living. I can't even kill you.
There's a lot to say about this scene. It's a very dark topic to introduce in the story, but I definitely think it makes sense given the circumstance. And again, given that Sazh has just lost everything, it's not hard to understand why he would consider suicide, especially since the clock is ticking on his own life anyway. The fact that he chose to keep on fighting even when he had nothing left was very brave of him, even if he couldn't see that in himself at the time. And thankfully, as he would soon see, the situation wasn't as hopeless as it seemed. Right now, though, things are pretty bleak, as the Sanctum takes both him and Vanille into custody.
I'm pathetic.
That's my life. I'm the one who lied to everyone.
Forget it. You can't change what's done.
But if I just told the truth...
Now. I've been thinking. You woke up from being a crystal once. Well, that means Dodge will wake up one day too, right? What was it like? I mean, how did it happen? You were done with your focus, right?
You may have noticed that, in spite of that harrowing experience we just had, the core conflict Sazh has been facing has been resolved. After all, Dodge did complete his focus, and Sazh didn't have to go see to make that happen. And after having some time to think about it, Sazh realizes what the rest of the cast has already learned at this point, that crystal sleep actually isn't the death sentence they thought it was. Vanille is living proof of that. Which means that, for the first time, Sazh has a clear path forward. If he can complete his own focus and enter crystal stasis himself, there's hope that he can be with Dodge again. When the rest of the party rejoins him on the Palamecia, he still clearly has a lot on his heart, but he is better now, and he does join the others in their attempts to return Cocoon to the people, which he would have balked at before. Possibly he can tell that the others have all grown up a bit during their adventures, Or maybe just the fact that Lightning and Snow are actually on the same side is enough to convince them that they're being serious about this. Regardless, their crusade brings them face to face with this ray of sunshine again.
Been looking for you, Nabat.
Your Eminence, please escape. I'll cover your retreat.
Why don't you leave, Jill? Or rather, take your leave. Humans have no business here.
What? Your Eminence!
Honestly, the biggest missed opportunity in the entire game is that we did not get a boss fight against Nabat. They gave us one in the Coliseum DLC for 13-2, but it would have had so much more impact here, or maybe even before Sazh and Vanille joined the rest of the party. A battle between Sazh, Vanille, and Nabat would have been a great way to show how far Sazh has come. He's faced the worst that life can give him and found hope again. He's fully made amends with Vanille, and him fighting Nabat wouldn't necessarily have been a chance for revenge, but a chance for him to confront his demons and triumph over them. Just in time for his world to be turned upside down again.
What? Magic?
Monster! People are not yours to use!
What else does one do with tools? Cocoon is a factory built by FFXIII, a factory for the mass production of human thralls.
Not anymore, it's not.
What can mere men do? Without our help, death is all of which you're capable. You saw the fools, a mindless mob drunk on fear of a viewless sea.
If they only knew a lassie was the one filling their glasses!
Let's see. You mean me? Oh, child, perish the thought. I am more than that! I am FFXIII. My name is Spartanderous, voice of the Sanctum, and Lord Sovereign of the Cocoon FFXIII. Your kind feared the darkness, so we gave you light. You begged us for the purge, and did it not come to pass? Now you spurn our counsel? You must learn your place!
Guess FFXIII don't go down as easy as the rest of us.
Ease is not the issue. You have not fought to win. You should know quite well already the sure way of dispatching our kind. Ragnarok.
What's Ragnarok? Ah! Ah! Ah!
Pitiful Lassie, you've forgotten your focus. Ragnarok is the beast one of you must become in order to lay waste to Cocoon.
Yeah, so during the same story chapter where Saz's conflict seemed resolved, we learn the truth of what the party's focus is. That one of them must become Ragnarok, a powerful monster they saw in a vision, and destroy Orphan, the being that sustains Cocoon. This is a perfect move from a writing standpoint. Just as one conflict is resolved, another one comes up, and the focus of the conflict has now shifted from Dodge to Sazh. The stakes have also been raised. Sazh no longer has to decide between his life and Dodge's, but between his fate and that of millions of innocent Cocoon citizens. We don't get to see much of Saz's personal perspective here, since the entire group is in the same predicament at this point, but it's worth noting that Sazh once again holds firm to his ideals and never considers valuing his life over millions of others. which for Barthandelus, the villain, is a problem because he kind of needs the party to do their job and destroy Cocoon, so he raises the stakes even more.
What did you do to Cocoon?
I resigned, appointing Reigns as Primarch in my stead.
Reigns? He's alive?
The puppet is restrung to serve my needs, yes. Its eyes had long since turned to glass. Of course, the cavalry's eyes will see our friend as nothing more than a traitor to their cause. They'll say the Fal'Cie got to him too, or some such drivel, and imagine when I spread word that it's Orphan tugging at his strings. What happens next?
What? You're gonna use the cavalry to take the thing out?
Perhaps. Or perhaps I'll feign the howling of Pulsian wolves and let the fear-addled sheep slaughter themselves first.
I haven't gotten to talk about the cavalry much in this video, but basically they're a military unit that was helping the party earlier in the game. Their leader, Reigns, inspired them to break off the shackles of the Fal'Cie and return Cocoon to the people, so the notion of him being a puppet of the Fal'Cie would absolutely cause them to start shooting. But Barthandelus is actually lying about them being able to destroy Orphan, since the troops who try to do that are immediately turned into Sazh when they do. But the party doesn't know this. For them, it seems like Cocoon is doomed regardless of what they do. It's no longer a question of whether they complete or deny their focus. Now they have to ask, do we deny our focus if Cocoon is just doomed anyway? But we've been here before. Sazh holds on to his values no matter what, and that continues here too. The party resolves to destroy Barthandelus, the one who's orchestrating all of these events, and then do whatever they can to stop Cocoon from tearing itself apart. They do succeed at this thanks to the intervention of the goddess, and said goddess also revives Sazh from Crystal, allowing Sazh to fulfill his goal at last and have his son back.
We interrupt this program to bring you an urgent Sanctum bulletin.
Hi everyone, it's me. I'm the Urgent Sanctum Bulletin. Can we zoom in a little, please? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. If you enjoy stories with great characters and conflict, and I'm guessing you do because you clicked on this video, well then do I have a novel for you. Folks, let me tell you about R.E.M. R.E.M. is a soon-to-be-published YA fantasy novel written by up-and-coming author Ashley Chatter. It's about a girl named Gwen, a coffee hater who enters a world that, by all definitions, should not exist, and teams up with a coffeeholic dream guardian to save her best friend from the very real terrors lurking inside her dreams. So it's kind of like if Inception and Rise of the Guardians, two great movies, had a really awesome baby together. This story features great pacing and conflict without compromising on good character relationships, unlike some of the characters in this video game, and it's already making waves among several authors and reviewers in this genre, including the man who taught me everything that I know about creative writing. Also, speaking from personal experience as someone who used to do monthly critique groups with the author, I can tell you that her work genuinely is amazing, and I would highly recommend it to anyone watching this video. So, if you want to support a newly published author in your craft and get a great story while you're doing it, you can use the links in the description to pre-order the book on Goodreads and Amazon. This is not a paid promotion, by the way. I have no coupon codes or discounts to offer you, but I do hope that you'll consider supporting anyway. It'd mean an awful lot if you do. Now, let's get back to the video. Where was I in the script again? Oh yeah, I was gonna start complaining about how Sazh was written in the sequels. The issue that I have with Sazh in the sequels is tied to what I thought was so great about how Snow was written in them. If you watched the Snow video, you may remember that I said I loved how the writers recognized and showcased how his perception of family had expanded during his journey as a l'Cie. Even with characters that Snow spent less time with, like Vanille, he cared very much about them, and his writing emphasizes that. I feel like he could have had an opportunity to do that with Sazh too, since he's also a family man, but this doesn't happen. His motivation is still centered around Dodge. He makes a brief appearance in the main story of 13-2 as a pilot trying to help Sarah save the future, but his DLC episode, which explains how he ended up 500 years in the future, is a story about him trying to save Dodge from a paradox. And on Lightning Returns, when we find Sazh in the Wildlands, he's once again trying to save Dodge from yet another plight. Like, yeah, we do care about the kid, but we've already gotten a full game and a DLC episode about this. Give us some fresh motivation. And they don't, because they left no room for there to be when writing him in 13. His main concern throughout the entire game is dodge. Like, he did bond with Vanille, and he had one cool moment with Fang where she also apologized for how dodge was branded, but that's the problem. The only people that Sazh connects with are people involved in Dodge's situation, and they bond over dodge. That's not to say that he doesn't care about the rest of the cast, he does, and in fact he's also shown to get along well with Sarah, Lightning's sister, but Sazh isn't set up well for a sequel in terms of deep personal motivation, especially since Vanille and Fang are pretty inaccessible to him since the ending of Final Fantasy XIII, meaning the only way the writers could think to motivate him were the imminent end of the world or a crisis surrounding Dodge, and that's exactly what we end up with. If it's not about either Dodge or the end of the world, Sazh doesn't really care about it, and this makes him feel one-dimensional. In 13 it didn't feel this way because his conflict was powerful and dynamically written, and it pushed the limits of his character, and he also had his relationship with Vanille, which did add more depth to his writing. But in the sequels, with him being put in a side role, he has none of this. There is a whole bit in his 13-2 DLC about finding hope for the future against all odds, and another one in Lightning Returns about Dodge's soul shutting itself off from Sazh because of how angry and scared he'd become. But this last bit especially isn't very satisfying because we don't get to see it develop on screen. All the other main quests in Lightning Returns have multiple developments or interactions with the characters throughout them. In Fang's quest we even get to travel with her as an ally character. But we only get a couple of interactions with Sazh and they're very short, so there's no build-up or payoff to finishing his quest. It's basically an afterthought, and from what I've seen on Steam forum pages, you don't even need to do Sazh's quest to beat the game. He doesn't even appear in the final battle until the action is basically wrapped up, and his Eidolon, Brunhilde, fights alongside Noel in that finale. The writers really just toss Sazh aside. Ultimately, he's still the same cool person that we got to know and love in Final Fantasy XIII, except during that whole bit in Lightning Returns, but he doesn't get an opportunity to showcase that in the sequels. He barely gets any screen time, his writing has now become stale, and he wasn't set up well for a sequel in terms of his role and his relationships with the other characters. I will have a better example of transitioning a character to a side role in the next video, and I do still love how his conflict was done in 13. And had he been given more of a chance to bond with the rest of the cast, or even just a wider range of motivation, he could have been the best character in the series. Unfortunately, he just wasn't left with much to do during the sequels, and no depth of motivation to make us bond with him again. And that concludes my analysis. I feel like it's a really disappointing note to end the video on, but yeah, that's how this character goes in my opinion. Let me know down in the comments what your opinion on all of this is. This is my first time actively talking down on a character's writing in one of these videos, and I wouldn't mind having some more perspective. And maybe also consider subscribing while you're at it, it really does help out a lot. I hope you enjoyed the video, thank you all so much for watching, and Lord willing, I'll see you next time. Have a good one.